Hey guys, and welcome to Toast. As you see, I have this handsome gentleman over here named Vinny P.
Vinny P, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
Happy to be here. Finally, yeah? About time?
Yeah, it's about time. So,
Yeah.
have you been listening to the podcast at all?
I have, but it did take the quarantine to get me here.
This
So,
quarantine is.
My bad. My bad.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
haven't gotten out of these sweatpants in like 2 weeks, but don't
yeah,
judge me.
the sweatpants look good on you.
Yeah,
You know.
thanks, man. Appreciate it.
For those of you guys who are watching in quarantine right now, Vince and I went on a trip. When was it? In like 2000?
We were 22, so 7 years ago.
Yeah,
So
22, 23, because
Yeah.
it was my birthday
Right.
that we went. Yeah,
I'm like a month after you. You're right. So July of 2013.
13. Yeah,
13. Yeah. Okay.
July 2013. And so like, I don't know what was like what was the point? Where
Yeah.
were we going? What was this? So we'll get into like the specifics of the story like later, but first let's talk like a little bit of a head run about like
Sure.
where we were.
That trip actually changed my entire life because that was my first real trip, if you want, that's like not an all-inclusive in Cuba or Mexico, or the typical all-inclusives that we do here. So that was my first trip with more or less nothing planned. We were just buying a not
Yeah.
a train ticket, a plane ticket to Europe. And I was a bit nervous. I'm like, what are we gonna do there? You're like, don't worry, man, we'll have fun. I'm like,
Figure
okay.
it out. Yeah.
Turns out we did have a lot of fun, and we both ended up moving to Europe, years later.
Yeah.
For me, in large part due to that trip, for sure. Like, I fell in love. I went back, just a few weeks after we came back. I flew back to Europe for the summer, and so of course was nervous, but it was my first Euro trip, if you want to call it. We had all seen the movie Euro Trip growing up too, so we thought we'd have a good time, and turns out we did.
Yeah, we thought we might end up in Bratislava, and little did we know a few years later we would end up in Bratislava.
We did a few times.
We did go to Bratislava.
And it is as crappy as they say in the movie. Just kidding. Sorry to all my Slovak friends.
Yeah.
It's just a joke.
So that was really cool because that was like, I mean, I had been to Europe, but just as a kid and
Right,
with like
right.
my mom. So that was also like my first Euro trip
Yeah.
as well. And it was so cool because I was doing it with you and you
Yeah.
just, I had already backpacked once and it was around Asia because I went to like Australia, whatever. So I kind of already had the idea of
Okay,
like,
so it was after your Australia time? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
true.
I-
You had
I-
just gotten back from there, I guess.
yeah,
huh?
I was like recently single and we were
Okay.
like, we're going to
Ready
go
to
to
go,
Europe
yeah.
and we're going to get all these cute European girls. And
Did it work? Like,
Um,
spoiler alert, did it work?
spoiler alert, kind of.
Kind of, yeah, okay. We'll get back to that.
That's a story for another day, actually.
Another day, it's not
What
today.
is that, Valencia? Now, today we're talking about Seville. So a lot of you guys who probably watch Game of Thrones probably know a bit of Seville because of Dorne and different like areas of Spain are generally used for filming it. We went to Seville just because we knew that it was supposed to be hot, it was beautiful, and we hit like this interesting like road bump or speed bump right at the beginning of our trip where we realized our like Euro train passes. We thought we could just like jump on
Hop on
any
it, yeah,
train,
yeah.
and then it ended up that we couldn't, and we had to kind of book all of our trains ahead of time. So we
And
just
still
booked
pay
them.
like some sort of fee. We
And we
thought it was
still
all
had to-
covered, and it
Yeah.
is confusing. But weirdly enough, I've used that pass elsewhere other than Spain, and it works as advertised everywhere else. But
Okay.
Spain is just complicated. They're like, no, you still got to pay us a little bit,
Yeah.
But whatever, we still found our way.
It was like the little corruption
Yeah,
tax.
there you go,
Like
yeah.
this guy's just pocketing
20
it.
euros, bro.
20 euros. Yeah, don't worry. I'll hook you up. So Seville was like a good time. I don't think that we should necessarily talk about what happened in Seville because we were there for a few days. We had a nice hostel, rooftop pool and everything.
Yeah, that's the
Seville
part
was
we
like-
can say. Like, it was beautiful weather, like probably 30 something ish, super sunny every day.
Yeah.
And we got the hostel with a small pool on the rooftop. So we were chilling there for sure. And there was a rooftop bar and everything. So we definitely had a good time. We don't have to go into all the details. I
Yeah.
agree with you, but there is one killer story, in my opinion, our opinion, that came out of that time for sure.
Yeah. So like, just, fill me in, like what happened and what was like the start of the story, right? So for me, like I'll start, telling it as I remember, which was
Yeah.
for me, it was like, we were pretty much pub crawling all the time, right?
Yeah.
We were pub crawling almost every single night of that trip.
Yeah.
That was like our thing. And we were like, we were used to it. And then we would, that night specifically, the night before
Yeah.
this event, we were at, the club and we knew that we was really far. So we took a cab back home after having like 6 a.m. snacks or something. And we had this like train to catch at 10:45. So like, we're like, oh, the cab that we took in the middle of the night morning at that point. It was like €6. We're like, fuck
Yeah, like
it,
from
dude.
the club to the hostel was 5-6 euros, and we were like, okay, cool. You know,
Yeah.
so that's what we were expecting for the next morning. We were booking it for what, like 10:15 a.m. just to make sure we had some time to
Yeah, exactly.
to get to the train. You know, yeah.
And that was like part of the thing is that like we knew that we took a long cab that night before, and that the cab ride was like, you know, pretty long and still pretty cheap. So we're like, okay, yeah, let's just like, you know, told the receptionist like call the cab for us. She called the cab for us, and then like, you know, all
This is where it happened. So, right. So the cab driver shows up. I don't know, 10 minutes after it's called, or I think we had told it to be there at a specific time, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm not too
like
sure.
Maybe.
Anyway, so let's say it's what, 10:15. Our train's at 10:45.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. Something like that.
More or less. It was more or less that.
And so the cab driver shows up. We're like, okay, cool. We got our like 50-pound backpacks on our shoulders or however much it weighed. Put it in the cab, and you sit in the front, I believe. I sit in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sit in the front, and you see that the meter's already at what, 5? Was it 5 euros?
Yeah, it was like 5, maybe like 5.50 or something.
Yeah, so it was around 5 euros already. And as you said, the night before, the whole ride cost us 6.
Yeah.
So you're like, how can you show up? It's at 5. So you start kind of
trying.
I don't want to say arguing, but you start saying like, hey, what the hell's going on, man? You know, it's at 5 euros. You just showed up.
Yeah.
Of course, he doesn't speak English. You don't really speak Spanish.
No.
Maybe a little bit. I don't know.
It was
I think you took your Italian out at that point or
Broken
something.
Italian into Spanish.
I would have helped, but I was just laughing in the back seat. You know, I felt like a spectator to the whole thing.
I used all my gestures. You know, I was like, "Oh, che cazzo?"
Yeah, so you spoke Italian before you were fluent in Italian. You were still fluent in the.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the
everyone's fluent in Italian if they know how to use their hands.
So, anyways, you argue with him for, I don't know, like 30 seconds, a minute. And then he's like, no, you started 5 euros. And so we're like, you know, F this, you know, we're not
You
going
could say fuck it, don't
I
worry.
could say fuck on this?
you
Okay,
could say
fuck this. You know, we're not going to pay 5 euros. We sound cheap, but, you know, we knew that it was supposed to be 6 euros total, and we started 5. We were not too happy about it. So you say, you know, fuck it, we get out of the cab.
Yeah, because also what I knew is because when we got to Seville, like we had walked to the hostel and it wasn't that far.
Yeah.
We were just trying to
From
avoid
the train
that.
station, true.
The train station. And I knew that it wasn't that far. We were just like hungover. We got in at like probably 6:30, 7 a.m.
Yeah, we just wanted to chill,
Like,
you know.
we had like 2 hours sleep. We could, you know, stuff our fucking backpacks.
We did survive that trip somehow in 2 hours of sleep every night, every single night.
Yeah, I don't know
came
how.
back
And
in one
it
piece.
was like
so.
there's like the good old days of being, you know,
Can't do that anymore,
22,
man.
23 years old.
No.
But that was like, I was just trying to tell him like, reset the meter. Like, dude, like just like we'll stay in the cab. And then he wasn't down. And obviously he gets like all pissed off. And I said like, fuck it. Like we have time.
Yeah.
We could still make it to the train station. We'll just like suffer through the walk. And at least we'll pass out like real good on the train if we walk there for sure.
Yeah, in the 40-degree heat,
In the
course.
40 degrees
backpack
Seville
and
heat.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, I said like, fuck it. We get out of the car. And this
I was
is
still
like,
laughing at this point because I thought the whole situation was hilarious, and I think that triggered him even more. But
oh yeah, maybe.
essentially, when we get out of the car, like hell kind of breaks loose because we start walking away, kind of giggling at the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he gets out pissed as hell. Like you can read his body language. Like he's fucking mad, you know. And he pops the trunk, and I swear to God, I think he's going for a gun. Like I think, like just his body language and the way he popped the trunk, I'm like he's pulling out a fucking
this like
gun,
big
man.
bucket,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So so I think he's going for a gun. I start like speed walking backwards / trying to run and turn. And most people listening to this know me, so you know I'm a giant. I'm like really, really tall.
Like
and
face
I just
barely fits on camera right now.
Yeah, there you go. Face barely fits on camera. I trip on myself, of course. Why wouldn't I, you know? Trip on myself, fall, bang my head on like this little thing on the side of the road. And my life kind of flashes before my eyes. I'm like, oh, he's going to be standing right over me with a gun. Turned out it wasn't a gun. What did he actually pull out?
Well, so I remember it a little bit differently, but, you know, we can have conflicting ones because it is 7 years ago.
There you go.
But I remember that he pulled out the screwdriver.
First.
So he pulled out this, like, screwdriver from a bucket. So, you know, surprise, surprise. Sorry, not a gun, just a screwdriver. But, like,
big screwdriver,
a big motherfucking screwdriver. Like, that shit would be like a $5 foot long at Subway.
There you go. €5 this time.
€5 foot long at Subway. And the thing was, like, you know, I remember him kind of like swinging it at you, and that's when you backed up.
Yeah.
And
okay,
fell.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, like Vince is dead. Like fuck it.
yeah,
Like, you know, like he's not even going to see his 23rd birthday. Vinny is dead
Almost
in the
made
streets of Spain. But then, luckily, if I could say that, he didn't do that.
He didn't
because
stab me,
he
no.
didn't stab you. Instead, he like shoved me
So,
against the wall.
Luckily for me, unluckily for you.
Unluckily
He changed
for
his
me.
target.
He changed his target, and he put me against the wall, and he's like holding the screwdriver to me, and we're like really fucking close. Like we didn't move from the hostel. That
Not
was like
really.
the important part, right?
Luckily,
Yeah, so we were like still right there. We were on the same street. We were like 2 meters away from the hostel. Like we didn't drive in the cab for it to get to 550.
No.
It was like
No.
there. And one of the best parts was, while he's like fucking screaming at me, and I'm just there like I'm tripping because I'm like, dude, like €5 like I'll pay you, man. Like, I'll pay. And I knew the word for pay because it's the same in Italian, and I was like, pago, like I'm fucking paying you.
I'll pay you
I will
more.
fucking give you €7. Like just let me alone. And it was so wild because like then at that point like you got the attention of the person
Yeah,
at the
like
hostel.
I managed to get up, with my backpack, with my head kind of a little blurry, and the hostel desk was right there pretty much.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yo, you come help us, help.
Yeah.
And she comes out, and then people from the surrounding like balconies, because I guess it was apartments.
Yeah.
They were also looking out and telling him to like calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
Like don't kill some tourist over €5.
Yeah, exactly.
He still wasn't sure. He was like, wait, do I do it?
Yeah, well, it was funny because at some point, like, throughout that time, like, he let go of me, and I was like, I'll pay him, and she was kind of like, don't pay him. It's okay. The cops are coming. I already called the cops. And there's like, it's like, to me, it's just such a Southern European thing for like everybody to just like come out on the streets and be like, what the fuck's going on? There's like some fucking action over here. Like, hey, what the fuck? People throwing like salami at us and shit. Like fucking, it's tapas a clap. Like the salami, the chorizo will make you feel better. Sorry, guys.
I wasn't hungry at that point.
I wasn't hungry, no. Maybe for the receptionist, she was pretty cute. But other story. So at that point, like he didn't drive away, and he like
did he drive away like a few meters, kind of like
he like drove a little bit,
Yeah.
and then he didn't, and like we took pictures of his license plate and everything, and this is like like he's waiting for the cops,
right?
Like he's thinking like he's in the right, he's gonna get his fucking €5, and we're gonna like go to prison or something for trying not to pay him. And what we ended up finding out was the receptionist said like, oh, he started his meter as soon as we called him.
Yeah.
So like we needed to pay for the time for him to get to our location. So obviously we didn't know that because in North America,
like in retrospect, maybe it's our bad.
Yeah,
but
it may have been our bad, but like
we were banking on like the memory from the night before too, where we had paid €6 for the whole trip.
Yeah, exactly, and we didn't call it, and we didn't know that might have been.
And
the
also
culture.
Being our first Euro trip, we were kind of already like on guard about being ripped off. You know?
Exactly.
Because I always tell you, taxi drivers always try to rip you off, blah blah blah. So we were maybe a bit sketched out about that.
For sure. And then he ends up driving away before the cops show up.
Yeah, he realizes like I'm probably not gonna win.
Yeah, he's like definitely not gonna win against these like two random fucking. He probably thought we were American. These two random Americans are definitely gonna win because they're American and they're tourists in my place and we
also
care
I tried
about them.
to kill them for €5.
Also, I tried to kill them with a screwdriver for €5. But then he drives away and then the cops start like asking us questions, and this is where I start getting like a little bit like impatient with them because I was like, duh, like if we're going with the 10:15 to 10:45 story, let's say, it's like we had like 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to get to our train that was gonna leave, and then if not, we needed to go to Madrid, and we had all of these things that we needed to do that were kind of like banking on that, maybe a hostel booked and things like that, and I'm just like fucking showing them the train ticket, and I'm just there like,
look,
yo,
man,
like
look.
fucking dude, we have to catch this fucking train, and they're kind of looking at me like, yeah,
super chill,
like
it's like, hey bro, like don't worry about it.
Yeah,
you're in southern Spain, like we don't stress out here. Just
yeah,
relax,
like we'll just like call the fucking train, they'll wait, like no worries, like they weren't gonna leave on time anyways. It's fucking Spain, and then man, at some point, they're still interrogating us and asking us questions, and like more time is passing, and I think that we had like 5 or 6 minutes left until the train, and I was just like in that helplessness mode. Like it was just like, even if we ran with these like 50-pound backpacks, because our backpacks back then, like
we had our whole life in there. Right?
We had I mean, I still have my whole life in a backpack. My life is just a lot less possession.
Mine's in a suitcase. I upgraded a little bit.
Yeah, I downgraded, or I upgraded backpacks but downgraded size. And then you need to say this. Like, what happens?
Okay, so you insist that like, hey, the train's coming in 5 minutes. And then it kind of clicks in his head, he starts being super chill. He's like, okay, guys, 5 minutes, you're right. Opens the back door, the back door, to the cop car. He's like, hop right in, boys, you know? So we're kind of like not too sure
Dude.
what's happening. We're kind of excited too. We're like, wait, are we getting in the backseat of a cop car and he's gonna
Freaking
drive
out.
us to the train, or like we getting
Are
arrested?
we
What's
getting
happening here, you
arrested?
know?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh shit.
so turns out he's driving us to the train station, but he does it in the best possible way because he has to get there in what, like 3 minutes,
yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
Obviously puts on the sirens, fucking bolts it down the street like honking at every car, and we make it there. I don't know, in 2.5 minutes,
Dude,
we
it
make it
was
there.
stupid,
And we
yeah.
couldn't open the door when we get there too. We're like, yo, we're locked in the back. He's like, chill, gets out, opens the door for us.
Yeah, and then we ran, like we were
Yeah.
like there was like a minute left, you know, like probably still rocked a watch back then. There was like a minute left, and we're like running into like the train
We
station.
ran a
like,
lot on that trip to
yeah,
make
we
trains,
ran
by
a
the way.
lot to make trains. We even missed trains
Yes,
on
we
that
did.
trip, but that could be another story.
But
that train, we made it.
we did make it.
I don't know if you remember, but it was hilarious when we got to the train.
I think it left as soon as we got on.
Yeah,
no?
right when we got on, but right before getting on, we're like literally running onto like the train. We saw like what platform it was, and we're like literally sprinting. And then there's this like chick right at the front who's like checking our Euro passes. She's like, "Oh, you need to sign like their date." And it was like, "Dude, shut the fuck up! This train leaves in 12
Go, go,
seconds."
go, go.
Like, and then we ended up getting on the train.
Yeah, like we walk on, and I think it leaves.
Oh my god!
essentially.
Yeah, and so there was like a normal like train ride. I think it was 4 hours or something to
Like
Madrid.
yeah, we calm down on it. We pass out.
We calm down, we pass out, and then like I remember waking up and both of us kind of looking at each other and just being like, "Dude,
this
was
real?
that
Like, did that
fucking
happen?"
real? Like,
Yeah.
is that like shit?" It was like, and obviously it's reassuring to me that like you remember it.
It was
so
real, man.
it was real. Okay, cool. And then we get off the train at Madrid.
Yeah.
And this beautiful lady just walks up to me and she's like, "Are you Jordan Fortunato Coppola?" And I was just like, "Bitch, like you can
Hell
call
yeah.
me fucking Steven and I'll fucking like yes, I will say yes. Like
That
who
is
are
me.
you? Who's
That is
asking?
me, yeah,
Who
yeah.
is asking?"
And I was kind of jealous, and like I'm like who's asking me
Yeah.
what my name is?
Yeah.
Like let's go, man. You know,
Yeah.
but
And then she whips out the badge, and then it was like, "Oh shit!" Like undercover
secret Spain police.
secret Spain police. We got a crazy taxi driver on us. So then there were like a few other cops in like out of uniform in civilian clothing, and they like
Yeah.
bring us to the police station
in the train station.
in the train station
Yes.
of Madrid.
Madrid.
Yeah, and then like that was great because that was like one of those moments where like there's no way of telling if this guy got the story right or not, because it was me trying to tell him the story in a mixture of like broken Spanish and like at the time he wasn't even using Google Translate. He was using like some sort of
Some other you mean the
Yahoo-
cop at the Madrid train station?
the
Yeah,
cop- yeah, the
'cause he
cop
says
at
tell
the-
me what happened.
yeah. So he wants like our
Yeah.
testament or whatever our
Testimony or whatever it's called.
testimony. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And it's true. I think you typed it all up in English.
yeah.
And he used like a free shitty translation website or whatever to
Yeah, it was
translate it, and then
horrible.
he printed it as the official like police report and like signed it, stamped it. And I think he gave you a copy of it too, right?
I still have that
Still have
copy,
that copy,
at
yeah.
my parents'
It's
place.
so good. I'd be so curious now that you read Spanish
Oh,
too fluently. Like
yeah.
for you to read it, I'd be so curious as to what
I
it says.
reread it like a few years. I think the year that I got back from Latin America, 2018. I think I like dug it up and like because
Yeah.
on that trip I kept all of like my train tickets and all the things,
Oh,
and I'm
yeah,
like I'm
cool.
gonna make like a big collage.
Put
Now
on
it's
my
like,
wall, man.
Put on my wall. If I did that now, it would be like I would have a whole apartment full. But it's just like yeah. So I found it and I read it and I thought it was hilarious
Was it
because
pretty
like,
good?
it was like
pretty
kind of good.
accurate,
I mean,
more or less?
maybe it's as accurate as this podcast is. I don't know.
Who
But
knows how accurate it is? I
yeah.
don't know.
and the best part I think of this, or not the best part. I think we kind of already went through the best part. But one of the best parts definitely was when we were like
yeah,
leaving. We
yeah.
finished, testifying whatever we had to say. We threw it in this shitty translation thing and a lot of broken English and Spanish. And the guy was pretty chill. And like the entire time that we're in this police station, there's this like golf cart that says like policia or policia.
That's why I
if you're
like.
from
That's why I like
España.
traveling with you, man. Because like you have balls, So you're like, you have these good ideas, and so you see the golf cart, and of course, being you, you're like, I want to take a freaking picture in this golf cart. So you ask the guy, the police, you're like, hey, before we leave, like, thanks for saving our lives and taking this report and everything, but can we please have a picture of us in the police golf cart?
Yeah. And does he take it?
He takes it.
Oh,
I don't know if you're
shit,
are you
yeah.
showing it on screen now?
Yeah, I'm showing it
man,
on screen.
Classic. So that's
Oh
a
my
very
God.
cute and handsome 22 and 23-year-old Vincent Jordan
Yeah, it's
in a
2013.
policia golf cart. And
Policía.
don't ask me why, but Jordan had this idea, like, let's do a serious face, bro. Let's do a serious face.
Faces.
So these are our serious faces. Yours is way
Yeah.
better. You look like you're gonna kill someone. I kind of just look like I don't know.
Definitely-
I don't know what I'm doing.
Some murder was
Yeah.
definitely in my
It's
mind.
like
You know what I think it
passport photos, what
was?
you were thinking.
Passport photos. I think I wish I could just pull up my passport photos right now. They see how much I look like this actually. And then the best part was I love the comments. Lol, what the fuck? Police station in Madrid. And then
Accurate.
Yeah, accurate. It's true. It's proof right here. We're telling the story. So wrapping everything up, the cherry on the cherry on top of this Sunday was when we left the police station, still in the train station of Madrid.
Yeah.
And we're just like so hungry because obviously we didn't eat. And then we take this train, and then we had this interrogation. It's probably like 3 or 4 o'clock by this point. And we're just like starving, hungry fucking beings in this train station. And we're walking, and it's just like, food. And then we just see, it's like, it should have been McDonald's because the golden arches would have been like, but instead it was Burger King.
It was Burger King. Don't judge us, guys, please. You know, we were hungry, we were hungover, we were tired, we had a crazy day.
I think it was authentic Spanish food
Authentic
that
Spanish
we
food.
got at the Burger King.
Yeah, no, not the prosciutto burger. What's
the fucking Whopper?
There you go.
The Whopper with extra fucking chorizo.
Chorizo
And essentially, the best part was just when we're in that Burger King and we're just like tripping and we're ordering and we realized that with our combo, and like I'm a huge fan of, you know, I know it's fucking lame because everybody's favorite movie is Pulp Fiction, but my favorite movie is Pulp Fiction. It still was.
Great movie.
It's a great movie. And
10 out of 10.
and it still was back then. And you know, I was like, dude, I heard that you can get beers with your trios in Europe from that movie.
Yeah.
And so we ordered the fucking trio, and it's just like, yo, can I get the Whopper? But like, can I get a beer?
A beer?
And you're like unsure, like, are they gonna give me the beer?
Like, it doesn't sound
And
so impressive now, being in Europe, having been in Europe for so many
Yeah.
years. But when it's your first time in Europe and you realize that you could get a beer with your trio at McDonald's or Burger King, it's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah,
And you're like, oh man, I could get a Big Mac or a Whopper with a beer. It's so not North American styles, you know. And I think, yeah, there's the picture.
there it is.
Why
There
not?
was the beer. We were
Delicious Whopper, some shitty French fries, and a beer.
and a beer, and I think it was totally worth it. And I think
Totally
that
worth
was
it.
like the best way to finish, you know, that event, because it's like we got a beer
We
and we
needed to
got some
chill
like,
too,
yeah, we needed
like,
to
you
chill.
know.
You want junk food because you're hungover. You needed to like sit down and not be on the cops, and still like you wanted the beer because I don't know, it's like 30 degrees outside. You're in Spain. You're still on vacation. You
There
got
you
out of
go.
it without getting arrested,
Yes,
Um,
and without dying, which was,
and-
or being stabbed or injured.
being anything.
Screw-driven.
screw driven without getting screw driven. Yeah.
7 years later, we're still alive and breathing, which I'm pretty happy about. But so that was my first, real trip outside of an all-inclusive. And, my poor mother, when I told her that story, she freaked out, obviously. She's like, hey, you almost died. You could have died. But fair enough, But yeah, good times, man. We made it. We had a great trip. And I actually went back to Europe a few weeks later, and we both, like I said before, we both ended up moving there at some point.
Yeah.
So
it was
changed our lives for the
pretty
better. I would say.
transformational trip, I would say.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for coming to Toast, and have a toast to that.
Cheers, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, they hear it. Don't worry.
Okay, I don't hear it, but
they hear
I'm
a
sure
toast
it's a great
noise.
sound
It's like. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to Toast. Hit that fucking subscribe button. Send this to your friends, your grandparents, your fucking uncles, hamsters, ex-owner.
They're all in quarantine, so they're all gonna watch.
All of them are in quarantine. They've got nothing better to do than watch these guys drink beers and tell stories about when they were drinking beers and maybe getting stabbed and/or arrested.
Sounds like a good summary.
So, without further ado, here, Toast out.
Out.